Hi guys, Michael here from Channel 1902 and I'm here with Aj, Eamonn and Chris. Now, Aj and Eamonn are the Man U supporters, even though you wouldn't actually maybe know that. And also, it's a bit of a funny one because Chris is here. He was obviously one of the admins on my page and supports Norwich City locally, but he's a Man U supporter too. So yeah, this is kind of a bit one-sided, guys, but Chris is going to represent Norwich today. So, so let's start with you guys. What are your expectations coming into this game? Because Man United haven't been exactly on fire this season, have they? And they're sort of like sitting 3 points ahead of us at the moment. So if Norwich win today, we're level on points.
For us today,
6-pointer.
Let's get away from relegation. Yeah, you don't know what United's going to turn up at all. You don't know what system we're going to play. Injuries have hampered us, but I think the problem is we can't sack another manager, can we?
He's just shit Arsenal fan.
Woo! Yeah.
What's he doing?
That's it. Rowdy lot, anyway. So.
Latest fam.
So, a bit unpredictable at the moment, aren't they?
So, last week was pleasing against Liverpool. It was great performance. But then midweek, obviously there was a lot of changes, but it was back to how we've been playing recently.
I watched that game, and I thought, to be fair, you were going to win it. I mean, 7 minutes to go, weren't it? Something like that, and and then you win 1-0 in the week against Partizan.
Yeah, it's been, it's been a tough slog, hasn't it? Because I think, bar the Chelsea game on the opening day, on the opening weekend, we've not scored more than one in a game since I think about April, something like that. So getting the second goal in games, killing games off. I think we've led at Southampton, led against Wolves, led against Arsenal, led against Liverpool, and we can't get the second goal and see games out. So we need to be a bit more streetwise, get some points on the board. I'm hoping that today, with a team like Norwich that like playing football, like getting the ball on the ground and playing football and obviously trying to win the game themselves, I think that might help us a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we struggle to break teams down.
Is there any Norwich players you're a bit wary of?
It's always spooky, isn't it?
If Pukki gets a chance, he's obviously he knows where the goal is. Wendia obviously can find a pass. So I think generally as a team, Norwich seem to be like more about the sort of collective, and I think as a team you'll be quite dangerous today. So
you're confident with our defence now with Maguire and Wan-Bissaka, but I think it's the midfield, it's the transition, it's picking up the ball and who's going to play that through ball, who's going to feed. Apart from Dan James, who's out wide, we're asking him to do everything, and then that brings pressure on Rashford. Now Martial's just come back, so I think that's our big concern is midfield.
And I think that's funny you mentioned the word transition from defence to midfield, but I think Man United are a team in transition at the moment, because Ollie's just took over and he's trying to get players that fit his mould and also get rid of players what don't.
Yeah.
So you're kind of where Daniel Farke was 2 seasons ago.
if you look
at the moment.
if you look at what he's done, he's obviously tried to get rid of a few, you might say, bad eggs, the Sanchez's and Lukaku's, and they might be talented players in their own right, but they're not sort of conducive to the system that Ollie wants the team to play. So you start buying players like Dan James, Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, sort of British players, maybe you know the league, good mentality, that sort of thing. Obviously younger players as well. And you can see what he's trying to do. And if you look at the summer and go, okay, those 3 have been probably 3 of our best players this season. So if you like what you've seen there, then give him time in January and next summer to do more of the same and see where we're at. So I think everyone's, I say 95% of the United fan base are behind Ollie.
They're all behind him. I think the problem is it's results that determine what's going to happen. If say we come to December and we're in a similar position,
Or bottom half.
the pressure will just build and build and build every game.
Like you say, today's big 6 points, I suppose, for you. Now, Chris, I'm going to come to you, my old mugger, but just bear in mind we're talking about Norwich, okay?
Yeah, like basically I'm going to lose Manc accent now and I mean, switch back to Norfolk.
So, how do you see today's game playing out? I mean, you've been to most games this season.
Listen, there's never been a better time to play Manchester United, and I don't just mean from a Norwich point of view, I mean for every single team in the Premier League's point of view right now, because I think there's a psychological thing, not just with Manchester United in the fact that they are finding results hard to get, they are having to grind results out. goals, something that traditionally has been easy to come by, are hard to come by. But I think that mental state also transitions over to the other teams as well, because they're going to now think, do you know what, Old Trafford isn't the fortress it used to be. Playing United away from home isn't that worrying experience where you're just going to get badgered off the ball and they're going to play high pressing football. So realistically, it's all there for the taking from Norwich, because we saw how they produced against Manchester City. We've seen how well they played against Newcastle. They've had a few bumps on the way, but I think a lot of that is down to the injuries, especially when you've had most of your back four depleted sort of after your third game of the season. And I think that coincides with the trend of really poor results. And now we start to see players slipping back in the game against Bournemouth. Wasn't exactly the most exciting game of football I have seen in the lab, and that's coming from a Man United fan. But that, for me, starts to show that there's that momentum going to start building up. So for Norwich, I can guarantee you, out of the two dressing rooms, it's going to be Norwich that are the one that are going to be thinking they can take something from this, because I've been watching a lot of the other fan channels and looking at some of the other press conferences that Ollie's done, and there seems to be there's a few excuses coming out already. You know, we've got to be wary of Norwich, we've got to be there. You know, we got tonked by Aston Villa. Do you know what I mean? And then you're sitting there and you're thinking, you shouldn't be worried. You should go, well, you know, Villa, they're not the team that we are. We should be going there and doing the same.
Yeah.
So from a Norwich point of view, I think this is the best time to play them.
Do you think it's coincidental, right? Because I know a lot of people get on Tetty's back, and we have mentioned this before, but do you think it's coincidental? Last time Tetty played, we beat Man City 3-2.
Mm-hmm.
He comes back and we get our first point away in the Premiership.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not the greatest passer on the pitch. He's not known for scoring goals, and when they are, they're probably 30-yarders or an odd toe poke against Man U last time we were in the Premiership. But he brings
that one as well.
Yeah, really. But he brings a lot more to the team, doesn't he? Like leadership.
I think so, yeah. I think you've got to have that blend of experience, and I think your players like Tetty certainly bring that. Tim Krul obviously brings that as well. You know, even Hanley, I know that a lot of people have been on his back and he's not had a great start to the season, but again, international player. You know, he's been there. You know, from a championship point of view, rock solid. Where I think Tetty comes into his own in the Premier League is with a holding midfield role. You sometimes, depending on the style of play you're going to get, unless you're facing a really pressing, very fit team, you've got that room to manoeuvre, you've got that room to break up play. So Tetty doesn't necessarily have to be that box-to-box player. He can afford to make the occasional cack-handed pass, but the reality is he's a monster. Okay, he's hard to get off the ball, he's keen, not as pacey, but again, you don't really need to worry too much about that when you're when you're sort of playing as a defensive holding player in the midfield. So I think he breaks everything up. And in the Premier League, where you've got a little bit more time to play, a little bit more space, because obviously we know Premier League teams like to play a little bit more wider than the Championship, where it's like I say, it's schoolboy football, where we all kick the ball and 11 players just chase it straight down the middle. And I think that's why he will be, I think, more successful at this level than he would have done at Championship, because he just didn't fit the criteria that was needed. So I think experience-wise, yes, and I think he actually fits the mould, because you can look at him and you can say he's almost an identical in terms of his style as, say, Matic, I would say. But obviously the criteria that Norwich use him in is going to be totally different. They want him to play defensive, whereas United don't really know what they want, whether they want an attacking midfielder or a defensive midfielder. They don't really know, and sometimes they'll play two. So, you know, he will complement and he will garnish that midfield as long as they continue to play that attacking, flowing football, because it just that spine just works.
And obviously we've had quite a few players come back. Norwich had quite a few players come back in the last week or so. Who are you most excited to see come back and get into the first team?
Well, to be fair, I'm just happy to see Krul back, because I know, again, a lot of people are a bit funny about him, but I just think that there is something reassuring about having him at the back.
Yeah,
I really,
that's a fair point.
Do. You know, and I'm a massive fan of his. You know, you don't get to play, you know, for your country, Holland, you know, for being half-assed. You know, he's a quality keeper. He leads from the back, and again, it's that experience there as well. So I'm glad to see him back, 100%. I'm glad to see Tetty back as well. But yeah, I think for me it's going to be Tim Krul actually, which a lot of people will disagree with.
Fair point. And boys, so what do you reckon the score's going to be then And goal scorers, of course.
Bearing in mind,
Here we go.
bearing in mind,
Olé, Samuel, Samuel, good, toss it for you.
Cheers, buddy.
Congratulations on the 3 points.
Brilliant. Okay, so guys, goals. What do you reckon the score's going to be in goal scorers?
unconvincingly, I think we might win 2-1. We've not won away from home in the league since, is it February, March?
It's after Paris, isn't it? March.
I've forgotten how long it was. I'm going to say 2-1 United, Martial to score, but that's not with much confidence.
I think today's the day we're going to get 2 goals. So I'm going to this to say.
You're counting on a Norwich own goal, then, really.
I think
Probably a couple of penalties.
I'm hoping Martial will be the difference. 2-0 United.
Yeah.
wanna go.
And
I'm going to go
What you
1-1
done? Yeah.
United to score a penalty because can't seem to string anything together in the box. So I'm going to go for 1-1. I think that Norwich are probably going to outfox him in the last quarter of an hour because that's when United is susceptible to letting goals in. And I think it will be honours even. I think for me.
And for me, 1-1. Again, I think Pukki, Martial, goal scorers. I think when Onel comes on, he's going to cause you a few problems, I think. Very tricky player to play against. But yeah, so there we are, guys. 2-1, 2-1, 1-1, 1-1.
Sounds like United's performance on the table. 1-1,
Very much.
So there we are, guys. Hopefully we'll have a good game and come away with the 3 points on the ball city. Cheers for that, guys. Yeah, catch on. That's great. Really good interview.